Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. We are on ayah number 166 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Let us continue. قال الله تعالى: إذ تبرأ الذين اتبعوا من الذين اتبعوا ورأوا العذاب وتقطعت بهم الأسباب. So it begins with the word إذ. Normally this is used for the past tense, but here it is being used for the future tense, which is on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Tabarra'a, from bari'a, to be free of something. Uttubi'u, those who are followed. So those who are followed, meaning the leaders, will free themselves from their followers. This is to say, the leaders of kufr, who enticed people to follow beliefs of kufr and actions of kufr, will free themselves from the followers. Whereas in this world, they wanted the followers to follow them, and they will see the punishment, the adhab. وَتَقَطَّعَتْ, cut off. Al-asbab, meaning relations or links. Sabab is a cause, something which links one proposition to another, a cause, like cause and effect. So the asbab here is being referred to relations. Their relations will be cut off. So any camaraderie that they had, or love and affection and allegiance and whatever else of relations that they had, will be cut off. So it will be like they do not even want to know each other. So what can we pick up from this ayah? Well, we can pick up that there will be punishment on Yawm al-Qiyamah, because the word al-adhab is used. We get an insight into the affairs of the kuffar, that they will free themselves from each other, the leaders who are followed and the followers. And this is completely different in this world. Everybody wants to be followed, especially now in the digital age, where you can reach a wide audience all over the world, and you have people influencing others over the internet, aiming for as many followers as they can amass. And there is much love and allegiance between the followers and the followed. Yet all of this will crumble like a cookie on Yawm al-Qiyamah, when they realize that they were helping each other in falsehood, and they were helping each other to a place in Jahannam for an eternity. As for the ones who were followed, so the leaders, they were emboldened and embedded further in their kufr when they saw the large following that they had amassed. It encouraged them. And as for the followers, they were looking up to those who were followed, the leaders, the influencers, and they were taking them as a role model. So again, this encouraged them and emboldened them into following the path of kufr. So both parties were emboldening each other to follow kufr. And yet we see the result of this on Yawm al-Qiyamah. It will be completely a state of grief and regret. It is only and only those who followed the Prophet ﷺ who will not feel any regret nor any grief. As Allah Jalla wa Ala states time after time, they will not have any khawf, any fear on Yawm al-Qiyamah, nor any huzn. They will not feel saddened or grieved by all the pleasures that pass them by in this world. In this ayah, we may learn something about relations. We may say, any relation which does not please Allah Jalla wa Ala will be broken and shattered on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and will be a source of grief for their companions. So any type of friendship and allegiance which is based upon kufr and rebellion against Allah Jalla wa Ala is going to turn into grief for their companions. For example, kuffar could form allegiance to fight Muslimin, or maybe they form friendships and allegiance to go to haram places and commit haram acts. All this type of a thing is going to turn into grief, and the friendship will turn to enmity. For example, you can have these gang members who form brotherhood and allegiances, and they commit crime and deal in drugs and murder other gang members and so on. Al-akhillau yawma'idhin ba'duhum li ba'din aduwwun illa al-muttaqin. The close beloved friends on Yawm al-Qiyamah will be enemies to each other except those who had taqwa. Let's take ayah 167, which continues directly from 166. وقال الذين اتبعوا لو أن لنا كرة فنتبرأ منهم كما تبرأوا منا كذلك يريهم الله أعمالهم حسرات عليهم وما هم بخارجين من النار. The followers will say, so this is talking about Yawm al-Qiyamah. Notice he says وقال, which is past tense. And we mentioned this before. To Allah Jalla wa Ala, there's no difference between past, present and future. When Allah decrees a matter, it is as good as done. It may as well be in the past. There's no essential difference. But he uses the past tense to denote that the matter is decreed. There is no changing it. It is as if it happened in the past, which cannot be changed. They say law, which means if only. This is at-tamanni, hoping for something which is either impossible or extremely unlikely. Here, of course, it is impossible. They say if only we had a karra, this is a key word, which means a return. That is to say, if we could return back to the world. فَنَتَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُمْ, we would free ourselves from them. كَمَا تَبَرَّأُوا مِنَّا, just as they, meaning the leaders, freed themselves from us. Okay, we ask a grammatical question. Why is it فَنَتَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُمْ mansub bil-fatha? The answer is, it is meant to be فَأَن نَتَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُمْ. So when the verb comes after an, it is mansub, as is well known. Okay, but where is the harf an? It is mudmara, it is hidden. So it is implied. Okay, then he says, كَذَلِكَ, like that. So like what? It means just as he showed them the punishment, which was mentioned in the previous ayah, so just like that then, he will show them their deeds. That is, their evil deeds. They will have no good deeds, of course. He says, حَسَرَاتٍ عَلَيْهِمْ. Hasarat, plural of hasra, is shiddatun nadam. So nadam is regret, and so hasra would be deep regret. Okay, we ask the grammatical question, why is it hasaratin? Because the asl for every word is dhamma, hasaratun. Two explanations are given. Some say it is the third maf'ul bihi, the passive participle, because we see in the ayah he says, Allah will show them, so them are the maf'ul bihi, their deeds, their a'mal. This is the second maf'ul bihi, which is of course mansub, and hasaratin, the third maf'ul bihi, which is again mansub. It is mansub bil fatha because it is a jam'u mu'annath salim, that is to say a plural of a feminine word, which is with the alif and ta. Another explanation given, which appears to us more plausible, and Allah knows best, is that the hasarat is a hal. He will show them their deeds as a grief for them. So the state of the kuffar, as they see the actions, will be in a state of grief. And hal, as is well known, is mansub. وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنَ النَّارِ, they will not leave the fire, which obviously means they will be dwelling therein for an eternity. Okay, what might we pick up from this ayah? We pick up one major point from this ayah, which is grief. The followers will be in severe grief and regret. They would wish that they could free themselves from the leaders of the kuffar who enticed these people into following the path of kufr. Not only that, but these people will be shown their actions as a grief for them. So there's the second instance of grief in this ayah alone. Just ponder on the role reversal. In this world, in the digital age, we have influencers and those who follow the influencers. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, all of this will turn into grief for both parties. And there are so many ayat in the Quran which talk of the grief of the kuffar. وَيَقُولُ الْكَافِرُ يَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ تُرَابًا يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي قَدَّمْتُ لِحَيَاتِي وَإِنَّهُ لَحَسْرَةٌ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. ربما يود الذين كفروا لو كانوا مسلمين وأنذرهم يوم الحسرة إذ قضي الأمر. And there are so many other such ayat which talk about the grief of the kuffar. Now here's the question that we ask. After having read these ayat of grief and having understood them and having pondered over them, how can the Muslim just sit there and not give da'wah to the kuffar? One of two possibilities applies. Either this Muslim does not truly understand this ayah, meaning he has not internalized these ayat speaking of the grief of the kuffar. There's one possibility. If that's the possibility, you need to sort yourself out. Or the other possibility is he wants the kuffar to enter Jahannam and be in grief. And if that's the possibility, you need to sort yourself out. Did the Prophet think like this? No. Otherwise, what would be the point of prophethood and messengership? Our job is to ensure that the kuffar do not grieve on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And the only way to do that is by giving them da'wah. And there are many ways to do this. But the bottom line is you need to reach out to them. You could do this by speaking to them or by the good old-fashioned street da'wah. Perhaps you're no good at speaking. Okay, no problem. How about posting da'wah material through the letterbox? After all, postal da'wah is sunnah. Did the Prophet not send letters to the various rulers? There is no excuse. If you are living in a kafir land, you have to be giving da'wah after reading ayat such as this one, 167 of Surah Al-Baqarah. This is the massive practical lesson that comes out from this ayah. Another point which comes from this ayah, point of aqidah, is that the kuffar will be in the Jahannam for an eternity. They will not leave the fire. There are other ayat as well, three in particular, one in Surah Al-Nisa, one in Surah Al-Ahzab, and the other one in Surah Al-Jinn, which talk about the kuffar being khalidina fiha abada, dwelling therein forever. The keyword is abada. Abad means without end. It's the opposite of azal, which means without beginning. Let's take ayah 168. Allah Jalla wa Ala turns his attention to people in general. He says, Ya ayyuhan nas, kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba, wa la tattabi'u khutuwati shaytan, innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. After Allah Jalla wa Ala explained in the previous ayah that He alone is worthy of worship, He turns His attention to the fact that He provides for mankind, and He tells him to eat of the halal things of this planet Earth. And in particular, this ayah was revealed about some tribes of the Arab during the days of Jahiliyyah who would make haram for themselves certain things which Allah did not make haram, such as certain camels they would call bahira, sa'iba, wasila, and ham, and other such food as well, which they would make haram for themselves. So this ayah refutes this notion of the Jahiliyyah. It says, eat from the earth that which is halal and tayyib. Two descriptions given. Now it should be noted that in the context of food and drink, then halal and tayyib mean exactly the same thing. It is not possible for any food item to be halal and yet not tayyib, and the other way around. It is not possible for a food item to be tayyib and yet not halal. So we may say that halal and tayyib are used as emphasis. Otherwise he could have just used the word halal or could have just used the word tayyib, but he uses them both as emphasis. So this is one opinion which can be adopted. The word halal comes from the root letters halla, which means to undo, as in to undo a knot. So that which is halal is undone. So what does that mean? The knot which makes something haram is undone. So it is no longer haram. In other words, it is halal. So if you imagine something haram as being a knot which is tied, so if you undo that, it makes it halal. So the word halal can be used in a wide variety of contexts. As for tayyib, it literally means good. So it is that which the Muslim deems to be good to eat. And the Muslim will only ever deem the halal to be good to consume, whether it is food or drink. Some scholars may say that halal and tayyib have a difference because they're mentioned together. And if two words are mentioned together, then usually they do have some type of difference. They would say that halal would be that which you earn through halal earnings, and tayyib would be something which is halal in and of itself. Such as, for example, bread. Bread is halal in and of itself. So they say this would be tayyib. But if you earned this bread through haram earnings, then this would not be halal for you, even though the bread per se is halal. So this is another opinion on the matter. Okay, we ask the question, why are these two words halal and tayyib mansoob bil fatha? One opinion says it is a hal of the word ma, from mimma fil ardi. And so the word ma would carry the meaning of a verb. So what is on earth in its state as being halal, that's the hal, in its state of being halal. But the verb is implied in the word ma. Another opinion is that the word halal is mansoob because it is a maf'ul bihi of the verb kulu. So eat the halal, in other words. So maf'ul bihi is going to be mansoob, as is well known. Yet another opinion is that it is a description of a masdar which is implied. And the masdar here would be aklan. And the masdar which is used to emphasize the verb is going to be mansoob, as is well known. For example, you might say akala ar-rajulu al-lahma aklan. The man ate the meat. The masdar aklan is used to emphasize the verb being akala, to eat. But they say in this ayah, the verb aklan is mahdhuf. It is wiped out because it is implied. And we have yet another opinion, a fourth one on this matter. They say that halalan is mansoob bil fatha because it is a sifa, a description of a maf'ul bihi, of a passive participle, which is muqaddar, which is implied. So what is the maf'ul bihi? They say rizqan. So eat rizqan, provision, halalan, halal provision. So it would read kulu mimma fil ardi rizqan halalan. So these are four opinions on just this word alone. All of them are feasible. And then it tells us وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Khutuwat, plural of khutwa, meaning footstep. Shaitan we have spoken about. But what does this refer to? Understanding the words is easy. We said this before many times. But the main challenge we face in tafsir is to understand and know what the words refer to. Now what the words are referring to here, if you look at the reason why the ayah was revealed, which is what we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the footstep of shaitan is to make haram what Allah has made halal. And this is what the Ahlul Jahiliyyah would do. They would make haram what is ordinarily halal. And this is following the footsteps of shaitan. One might ask, but is it restricted to food? We say, no, it is not restricted to food. The ayah is general. Do not follow the footsteps of shaitan in whatever he tempts you to do. But the context of the ayah is referring to the food first and foremost, because this is why the ayah was revealed. Indeed, he is to you an adu. Adu means enemy. Mubin. In this case, mubin means bayyin, clear, a clear enemy to you. They would say abana as-subh. The morning made abana, meaning it became clear and apparent when the sun rises and the sky lights up. Ayah 169 follows on. إِنَّهُ يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. إِنَّمَا, he only, orders you, this is يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء. So these are two keywords. Normally both can be used interchangeably. However, in this ayah, is there a difference between them because they are used so closely together? We can say there is a difference between them. So su would refer to minor sins and al-fahsha would refer to major sins. And there are other opinions on this matter as well. Some say as-su is where there is no had punishment and fahsha is where there is a had punishment. And there are some other opinions as well. But practically speaking, whether these two words are put together as a tawqeed or whether they're put together to mean two different things, the bottom line does not change. We are going to avoid all su and fahsha. So in other words, every type of sin possible is something which shaitan orders you to do and something which we need to be on guard against. And the ayah says he orders you to speak against Allah what you do not know. So this refers to all types of things, but in the context of the ayah, it refers to the people of Jahiliyyah making certain types of camels and vegetation haram, where Allah Jalla wa Ala did not make it haram. Okay, what might we pick up from these two ayats? We can pick up the graceful nature in that He has made halal and lawful for us most things on earth. Just imagine if it were the other way around. Most things are haram and only a minority of things are halal. Imagine how difficult life would become. Also, do you notice how he says Ya ayyuhan nas? He did not say Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So what does that tell you? It tells you that even the kuffar, who are from an-nas, are obligated to obey the ahkam of the sharia in terms of eating only the halal. So if a kafir eats pork, for example, he will be taken to account for that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, on top of his basic kufr. We learn something about ash-shaytan. He is a plain enemy to us, so we avoid all his temptations and wasawis. Now at this stage, with regards to the halal and the tayyib, let us make one point. There are those who say that animals who are slaughtered in an inhumane way by being tortured and so on, then even if they are slaughtered in the proper Islamic manner, this meat is not tayyib even if it is halal. And we have to say here that this opinion or statement is wrong. Anything which is halal is tayyib and vice versa. We made this clear before. What these people are getting mixed up between is the treatment of the animal and the meat itself. Yes, if the animal was tortured, then this treatment is not tayyib. That is true. And these people who perpetrated the acts will be taken to account. However, that has no bearing on the meat itself. You cannot call the meat itself غير tayyib, that it is not tayyib. No, it is tayyib as long as it is halal. So notice the difference. Wallahu a'lam.